Hey, what is up? I am Rafael de Furia, back at it again on another Friday night. And so this week, I am out and about finally. I mean, I've had to go out a couple of times, but now with the situation here in Italy, specifically where I live, is called Rovigo, things have kind of changed, but I wouldn't say they've changed too much. But we'll go into that a little bit more in this video. But before we get too much deeper into this video, a huge thank you to those of you who are helping to make these videos possible. And if you would like to see more content about moving abroad, living life in Italy, and dual citizenship, be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. Anyway, so we're at this point now where what they are calling phase 2 of lockdown. And I've decided to start here my video this week just in the northern part of the city of Rovigo, the small little city that I live in, just so that I can kind of work my way down and show you a little bit of what life has kind of become here. Social distancing has kind of become a new norm. Normally at a pharmacy like this, it would be possible to just go inside. And because the amount of people that are allowed to stay in one store at one time is quite minimal now, that's something that's changed. But also, even when you go to an ATM, go to the bank, any of these sorts of things, this has also changed. The amount of people allowed to go into a store or a bank or whatever is restricted depending on the size of the place. For example, here's a bank. Every day people are waiting outside the bank to be able to go inside and be able to get what they need done. Banks are one of the few things that have been staying open during this time with limited services available. However, there are some places that are staying open, that have been able to stay open. But what I keep hearing in international news is that they keep saying, oh, Italy is now out of lockdown, but we're nowhere near out of lockdown. We're only in phase 2 of just what they're calling this lockdown. And the restrictions are only slightly loosened. I wouldn't say that we're out of this by any means. Yes, it's true, a lot of places are starting to be able to be open, but even if you look just right behind me here, places are already going out of business. We're feeling the effects of this here financially. A lot of people aren't able to work, businesses are closing, businesses are going bankrupt, so I would say that things are far from normal. We're not even remotely out of the woods yet. And while we are seeing more people out on the streets now, it's still nothing in comparison to what once was. We'll be getting up to the main piazza here in just a minute. But one thing that has been the most noticeable is that people aren't able to just go out and sit and have a coffee like they would normally do. It's just a very basic part of Italian life that people go, they sit, they have a coffee, they have an aperitivo, they have a nice drink later in the day, and just live life. But really, without going into all of the details of what is open and what is not open, really the most major difference from the situation before until now is that we have just a little bit more freedom when it comes to going out of our homes. We're still restricted with not being able to go between cities unless you absolutely have to and unless you have permission. And so things, to some extent, are not really that much different than they were before. I mean, other than being able to kind of walk around a little bit, but we're living this different new life that has been thrust upon us, where people are having to, even if you can see behind me here, I don't know if it's possible, but people aren't able to meet with their friends like they were before. And if you do see your friend in the street, you have to stay about a meter or two away. Yes, it's nice to see people out again, out and about, but wearing a mask is required. Gloves, you're supposed to, but not everybody does, which is understandable because some of these basic things have been difficult to come by. Even actually yesterday, when I was out, I had to go to the pharmacy just to pick up a couple of basic little things that I need. And what happened was that I was standing outside, I was just walking on the street, and one of the straps to the mask that I had broke right on the spot, because unfortunately my only option is basically to be reusing the same FFP2 mask that I've had pretty much the whole time, because you just haven't been able to buy them. Actually, by the way, this is a vegetable store here. This is the one that I posted about on Instagram. Again, this has become what's the new norm here. But anyway, I was walking up the street to go to the pharmacy, and what happened was that the strap, just exactly as I'm walking there, snapped. So I'm flipping out that like, oh crap, they're probably not gonna have any masks. I'm probably gonna have to go home and figure something out before I can go in there. But I was like, you know what, I'll chance it. I held the mask up to my face and I was like, do you have any more? He's like, but you already have a mask. And I was like, I held the rubber bands that were holding it together in my hand. I was like, no, I don't. He was like, oh right, no, you don't. Here's one of the local tobacco stores. Again, here in Italy, a tobacco store is not simply just a place where you can buy cigarettes and stuff. You can also pay taxes, bills, and it serves a lot of functionality besides just being able to buy a pack of cigarettes. Thankfully, one of the things that is being allowed now is food delivery. And so we can get some prepared food from restaurants delivered to us. Now, this is actually a little bit of a surprise. So this is one of the things when they first started lightening up the lockdown here in Veneto, was they said that we could go and buy flowers and bring them to friends if we wanted. And as I've joked in a few online posts, that freedom never smelled so sweet. It was, to me, kind of a funny thing, like that, just like, of all things, that flower stores can be open. But now even like you can go to the glasses, the optometrists, like that wasn't even possible before, but this cafe here is closed. It's been closed for months. All the cafes here have basically been closed. I've been seeing people starting to clean up inside, so it seems like they're expecting to be able to get in there in the not so distant future. And supposedly what the story is that on May 18th things are supposed to open up, assuming that things go well. But let's see. Let's hope that things don't get worse here. But gathering is still not quite something that's allowed, but you still see that it's something that people do. It's part of life here. The Italian people are a very social people, and so being cooped up in your apartment for 2 months plus is not something that has been easy for anybody. In places where they have prepared food, you can go in and get food to bring home. But this place is also a bakery, some yummy, delicious things, of course, which is absolutely necessary during these times. You gotta find your way of keeping yourself happy. This place is quite regularly filled, but this is just the situation now that places like this aren't really able to be open. Pharmacies, of course, are open. But one of the other things that has been able to be open right now, one of the first things that they did also open up were children's clothing stores. So that I thought was actually very interesting, because that was one of the first considerations taken into account, because I mean, kids grow. But phone stores have also been staying open because they're pretty necessary. I spoke to a friend who has one of these phone stores here, and he said during the lockdown, like when it was the phase 1 or the original kind of like quarantine period here, nobody was coming in. He said it was so quiet. They were still open, but he had never seen it so quiet before. While life is different, life is still going on. And don't worry, these places here haven't gone out of business. This is normally quiet, but not necessarily this quiet. So this was a place that had meat. I don't know if they've been closed for a while or what the situation is. This is my first time out this far since the lockdown. But greengrocers and bakeries are open. So in this corner here is a greengrocer. Right next door is a bakery, but of course, because it's tight spaces, only so many people are allowed to go in at one time. Fish place over here. Oh, even it says like that you have to wash your hands, 3 clients only at one time, with keeping a distance of 1 meter each. The other type of store that I heard is open are like photo stores, but I haven't seen if that's actually the case or not. The main photo place that I would go to, like if I were to buy film or something, is a little bit further away, and I haven't wanted to venture out that far. I might go, but there's one that's a little bit closer here to the center that I'm gonna go check out just because I'd like to start taking some pictures again. I should have brought my camera with me today, but it is really very strange because in one sense, like, okay, we can kind of go out again, but we still need the self-certification document with us. But here in Rovigo, they haven't really been checking so much from what I've heard. I have heard people have been arrested and people have been checked, but it doesn't seem like it's so much. But even the fountain, that's not stopped going. So kind of on the kind of outer layers, things here in the north look okay. But when you start looking at the rest of the country, especially the south, it's hard to say the situation is the same. Because even here in the north, there are a lot of people who are still out of work and who aren't able to make a living and are having a very difficult time. Thankfully, the government did introduce tickets that are possible to get, similar to, I guess, like a food stamp, that people could go and purchase groceries. But it's been getting tough. That's without a doubt, and it's not just for some people, it's for everybody. Oh, looks like they are open. Ciao, buongiorno. Solo uno.
Le cose le metti qui dentro. Vai.
Grazie. Octa, ciao, ciao. Ciao, arrivederci, ci vediamo. I was able to get film. I'm so excited. This is like, you can't even see how big the smile is on my face. But this place in particular, they are something special. They went above and beyond. Right at the beginning of the closures here, I had sent a couple of rolls of film to be sent out that I had taken about a week or so before the lockdown. I had a feeling something was coming. And so I really wanted to document what life was like at that moment in time and what the situation was, what people were experiencing. And so I went out with my cameras, took some photos, and I brought the rolls to be developed there. There's another place here in Rovigo which you can also send for development, but they send it off to Switzerland. And that's the place I had been using for the development. But my concern was, well, what if the situation really goes south? What's gonna happen? Will my film get caught on the border somewhere? Will I ever see my photos again? Thankfully, this place actually sends their film to Ravenna. And I like that idea better of supporting an Italian business, personally, especially because that's where I am. Ravenna is not too far away. I mean, okay, it's in a different region, but worst case scenario, it's still the same country. Anyway, so they sent out the film. It took maybe a couple days longer than normal, which it made me nervous, but I was almost kind of expecting it. And because at that point we couldn't really go out, it was at that time where it was like Milan had just closed or was just about to close, and everything was in a complete whirlwind, or as they say here, tutto casino. And so thankfully, instead of my having to go there when they were closed, because they had actually closed their doors at that point already, they came to my home and delivered it to me. I can't even say how grateful I was for that. And this was one of the things that I was talking about during this time, that even though people were far apart from each other, that they were still able to come together and help each other. And that's something I have been so impressed by throughout this whole time. And even now here in Rovigo, I can't necessarily speak about other places in the country, but people here have been very respectful of each other. They have been keeping the meter rule. They've been waiting in line patiently, and it hasn't been like a bum rush to get into places or to take care of things. But anyway, so I think actually I'm going to take you guys right over here so you can see a little bit more of what the situation is like here and what it's like to actually go and get some food. They do rotisserie chicken here, and it is probably the best rotisserie chicken I have ever had in my life. So delicious. Looks like they're just taking some out right now. They also have a lot of different types of prepared foods. My favorite thing here is the fried zucchini. Ooh, out of this world. Anyway, gotta keep the distance. Ciao, un pollo e anche zucchine fritte, per favore. E basta così.
Lo taglio il pollo?
Sì, per favore. And normally this place, they don't do deliveries, but you can also get delivery from here. And this is what has happened with a lot of businesses here in Italy, is that they're trying to find ways of adapting to the new situation here, which has not been the easiest thing. Again, like I was mentioning, many businesses are unfortunately going under and unable to survive the situation right now. Grazie. Grazie, buona giornata. Ciao, ciao. So I'm a happy camper, definitely. I've got some film and some lunch. Maybe later on today I'll go back out. I'm sure I'll have some more shopping I need to get done. I mean, you gotta have a reason to go out, I guess. Yeah, this staying at home business. I've said it many times. I'm the type of person who's totally happy to stay home. I love staying at home. I've always enjoyed the great indoors. But there's a certain point where it kind of starts becoming a little bit ridiculous. But to have a little treat like this has been, since they opened back up again earlier this month, it's been very welcome to have that little treat, just because during this quarantine I fell into a rhythm of eating the same thing almost over and over again, nearly every day. So to have a little different taste in the taste buds, very welcome indeed. So thank you again so much for joining me on another Friday night. Hope this video has been informative to show, maybe to give a little bit more of a different view or an insight of what it's actually like on the ground here, what daily life has become here. Again, still people are staying at home mostly, but a lot more people are out than what was before, because now, like I was saying before, we kind of have that freedom. But of course, if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like, that would be greatly appreciated. And a huge thank you to those of you who are helping to make videos like this possible on Patreon. Of course, that is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much. I was worried that was the police for a second. I'm sure you guys realized it was a taxi before I did. Anyway, as always, I'm Rafael di Furia, and I'll see you all next time. Later.